Ross Tucker, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast and also Even Money Podcast. You can find him on social media at Ross Tucker NFL. I saw an article in the LA Times, and the gist of the article is who has the most pressure on them in the Super Bowl. And the LA Times was saying it's Sean McVay. You buy into that?
Yeah, that was going to be my initial reaction.
Really?
I mean, it's nobody on the Bengals. It's nobody on the Bengals, obviously. Nobody expected him to be here. I think you could say Matthew Stafford, but he's already won 3 playoff games. He already got them to the Super Bowl further than Jared Goff did. The only person here who has the ability really to accomplish something that they have missed out on to this point is McVay, because not only did they lose that Super Bowl to the Patriots, but they couldn't score. I mean, Dan, he's an offensive genius, whiz, guru. They could not score against the Patriots in that Super Bowl. I don't think there's that much pressure on anybody, to be honest with you. But if there is one person that has the biggest onus on them in this game, it's probably McVay.
Let's look at the last couple of days in the NFL. Let me start with Jim Harbaugh. What question or questions do you have with Harbaugh going back to Michigan?
How bad he wants to get back in the NFL. I mean, to me, this makes me laugh, Dan. You know, you see last night, multiple reports, Jim Harbaugh has called Michigan. He wants to come back and be there. And then 15 minutes later, the Vikings are expected to hire Kevin O'Connell as their head coach. Everybody does this.
Yeah.
I mean, from now on, anytime head coach interview, I'm going to call the Ross Tucker podcast and be like, I'm going to stay. As soon as I find out somebody else gets the head job, I'm going to stay going on Dan Patrick every week. Give me a break, dude.
I wonder, though, Ross.
National signing. Go ahead.
I wonder if Harbaugh went there expecting for the Vikings to sell him on the Vikings organization. And it feels like the Vikings said to Jim Harbaugh, we want you to sell yourself to us. And I think you're there for 9 hours. I mean, you don't go through 9 hours without getting a job if you're Jim Harbaugh, I'm thinking. But I think he went into that interview and maybe it was like, I'm here, hire me. And Minnesota probably went, nah, it doesn't work that way, Jim. We want to know what you can do for the organization.
Well, I think that's possible. At a minimum, he wouldn't go for a 9-hour interview to Minnesota on National Signing Day. And I know it's the second signing day, but still, he wouldn't do that unless he wanted the job.
Yeah.
I believe he wanted the job. You know, there have been so many rumors for the last few weeks that he really wants to get back to the NFL. I don't blame him. Recruiting is 24/7. And what I personally think happened is as soon as he caught wind or his agent caught wind that he wasn't getting the job, he wanted to make it look like he was turning them down. It's not you, it's me, it's not you. That's not the case. I'm pretty confident he wanted the job. And if you're the new GM for the Vikings, do you really want your first hire to be bringing a guy who it ended really poorly the last time because he got into a power struggle with the GM? I mean, this would be a first-time GM. My guy Kwesi from Princeton, who's younger than me, makes me feel bad about myself, and now he's a GM of an NFL team. He didn't want to bring in – I wouldn't think you would want to bring in a guy that could lead to a power struggle. I don't think it'll happen with Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah, and then I wonder if I'm Stephen Ross, and the timing is horrible, but Stephen Ross didn't want to poach Harbaugh from Michigan, but if he knows that Minnesota is going to poach him from Michigan, then what would stop Stephen Ross from not trying to poach him because Jim wants to go to the NFL? But given the timing of what happened and the Brian Flores stuff, it probably felt like, Jim can't go play for Stephen Ross. Stephen Ross may not have this team in a year with everything that's gone on. What do you make of the allegations against the Dolphins and their owner?
Well, that's the one that jumped out to me the most. All of the Rooney Rule, coach hiring stuff is, of course, a huge topic, but it's one that we broach every offseason. I mean, we talk about that every offseason. It doesn't make it better, and I'd be incredibly frustrated if I was a minority head coach candidate. But what's new this year in this lawsuit, what jumped out to me was the allegations of being incentivized to lose games, which is a major, major problem. I mean, if there's any evidence of that, the NFL is going to come down on him as hard as they ever have.
They're going to take his team away.
You think they will?
For that, where you're fixing games. I mean, it's bribing. It's a bribery act. You can't just fine him $1 million or $10 million or $20 million. That doesn't matter to him. He's throwing games. He wants you to throw games, allegedly, and paying you to do it. You can't let him. He can't stay because he wants to get Joe Burrow. I mean, that's why he was doing this. I can't let him have his team.
Yeah. So the thing I always think is interesting about that is, Dan, if that's the case, then if what Hugh Jackson's saying is accurate, are you getting rid of Haslam and Stephen Ross? And if you're one of the 32 owners, or 31, I guess, that makes this decision, are you really comfortable with getting rid of two of those? I mean, those guys don't want to think that there's anything that can get them out of the club. They're in the club. They bought in. My guess, Dan, and you know more than I do, I guess, but I would think it'd be like 3 first-round picks and $10 million. I think it would be the most severe punishment a team and an owner has ever gotten. I don't know if they're going to kick out 2 owners of this exclusive club, because then the other owners are going to be like, well, wait a minute. If we can kick out this guy for that and that guy for that, they might come at me for something at some point.
Well, I think Cleveland is different because Hugh Jackson didn't get money. He just got his contract extended. Like, I think the owner thought, hey, this is a couple of years rebuild, and you're doing really well at doing really poorly. And we want to keep you in that job. So they didn't say for each loss, you get $100,000. They're just saying, hey, if you keep losing, we're going to continue to extend your contract. Now, is that semantics? But the direction is not lose games and you get $100,000. That's the difference. That's where it gets far more severe with Stephen Ross.
Yeah, I guess, because here's my question, okay? And I tweeted about this morning at Ross Tucker NFL. Dan, I'm a Sixers fan, okay? Now, I'm not a diehard NBA guy. You know, I'm a football guy. But the Sixers essentially lost on purpose for like 4 years in a row. I mean, I think it's interesting to me that the Browns and the Dolphins are under fire when I don't know. I don't follow it that closely again, but aren't there several NBA teams that essentially lose on purpose every year?
The Cavs did this for LeBron James. You know, the Rockets did this, I think, for Akeem Olajuwon. I mean, this happens. But
why have they never gotten in trouble? Like, why has nobody ever been an issue? Well, I guess no coach said anything.
Well, the Sixers called it the process. See, that's the difference. That's the difference. It's the process. It's not tanking. You can't say tanking. Mark Cuban used the word tanking, and they got fined $600,000. It's the process there. We're talking to Ross Tucker. His Ross Tucker Football Podcast is available, wherever you can get podcasts, and social media at Ross Tucker NFL. I don't know why Jimbo Fisher isn't just embracing the obvious, and that is we got resources at Texas A&M, and this is a great place to play, and we beat Alabama. We're here. We're for real. But instead, he had this reaction yesterday to the reported slush fund that A&M has that's somewhere between $25 and $30 million for the recruits.
There is no $30 million fund. There is no $5 million. There is no $10 million. This is garbage. And it does. It pisses me off. And here it comes from a site called Bro Bible by a guy named Slice Bread. Then everybody runs with it. So it's written on the internet as gospel. How irresponsible is that? And then to have coaches in our league and across this league to say it, clown acts. All right? Irresponsible as hell. Multiple coaches in our league. And the guy's griping about NIL, griping about transfer portal, using it the most and bragging about it the most. That's the ironic part. You want character? I'll take it with any of y'all. It's a joke. It does piss me off.
Okay. You know what I would do if I'm him? I would say, no, it's not 25 or 30 million. It's 50 million we have in a name, image, and likeness slush fund. There's a whole lot more where that came from. Come on down here and play with the Aggies.
Well, a couple things, Dan. Number one, What's the line? Methinks he doth protest too much. I think he went a little far there. Secondly, look, I've been around long enough to know. Remember the year when Ole Miss got Laramie Tunsil and Laquan Treadwell? And when a school that isn't typically a top 5 recruiting school, and Texas A&M does pretty well usually, but not top 5, not number 1 in the country. When they come out of nowhere to be the number 1 school, there's usually a reason for that. What I think is unique or different about this is, as far as I know, you're kind of allowed. Now, I read the rule where they say it's not supposed to be an inducement for someone to attend a school. It's supposed to just be money that they earn from their image and likeness while they're actually at the school. But this is what I always thought it would turn into. And it has, and I'm happy for the kids. I'm happy that they're getting the money. And this is what I always thought it would be, which is essentially guaranteeing every kid, hey, you'll get at least $100,000 a year in name, image, and likeness. But I'm a backup center. We don't care. We need depth. $100,000 a year, buddy. You're in.
Yeah, they made it legal. And this is, the NCAA just wanted to make sure that these kids weren't getting paid money that was going to be for the schools, playoffs, all of that. Hey, we don't want to pay the players, but we'll let you have name, image, and likeness. And no one thought this through, that the schools who have money, willing to spend money, and yes, I'll go there and you're going to pay me for name, image, and likeness. But how much are you going to pay me for name, image, and likeness? So then it becomes an inducement, because there's no salary cap that says you can only offer them this. Well, legally, I can offer you whatever I want. And so if Texas A&M has the money and they're willing to spend the money, I wouldn't be apologizing.
Dan, I was told 3 years ago by a personnel director at a Power 5 school that the NIL department would end up being bigger than the recruiting department at these schools sooner rather than later. This is going to be what goes a long way towards determining where these kids go. I don't blame them. Who knows if you'll make the NFL or not? They're essentially free agents. The part that gets really interesting is that they can all transfer for a year. I'll give you another one, Dan. I've had multiple coaches tell me that, why they love the transfer portal? And why they want to get more transfers? Because you only get to do it without penalty once. You recruit a high school kid to come in, he's a perpetual free agent. You get to transfer one time without sitting out at all. That kid can leave whenever. You get a transfer from somewhere else, he's got to make it work. He's got to stay there. Otherwise, if he tries to transfer again, unless he's a graduate, he has to sit out a year. So they actually feel like there's a chance for more loyalty from the kid. The whole thing has changed. It's wild.
You played for the Washington Redskins 6 games, I believe. So I'm curious, your old team with the new nickname, you're a Commander.
Yeah, I guess. I really wanted to be I would have really embraced Warthogs or Red Hogs. I wanted something to go back to the Hogs. I actually started my career there and finished it there. So I have somewhat of an affinity for them. Not like I do for the Bills where I played the most or whatever. Commanders reminds me of the Cleveland Indians changing their name to the Guardians. It just seems so it's such an XFL type of name to me, the Commanders. It's just very generic. I guess it's fine, Dan. I guess it's safe. But let me ask you this, okay? When someone says to my daughters or says to me, hey, Ross, what teams did you play for? Cowboys, Bills, Patriots, Browns. For the fifth one, am I saying Commanders or am I saying Redskins because I played for the Redskins? Or am I not saying that because that is obviously offensive to some people and that name's no longer around?
I would say Washington.
But then that sounds weird. Cowboys, Bills, Patriots, Browns, and Washington. I wanted to say I was a Warthog. I think that's all. I don't know why they didn't go with the Warthogs. I'm still bothered by this.
I know you have a new business venture that you wanted to mention here to our audience.
Oh, I appreciate that, Dan. Yeah, it's awesome. It's the greatest Valentine's Day gift ever. It's called myfrontpagestory.com. Everybody just gets flowers or chocolates or a gift card to a spa. When they open it, Dan, it literally looks like it's on the cover of the newspaper. It's a framed newspaper cover story with the picture of your wife, the family. She'll be like, "What is this?" You're
Wait,
like, "Honey,
my wife?
anybody's wife."
Oh, okay.
Whoever you get the story for. I'm assuming you would get it for your wife for Valentine's Day. So it's a picture of your wife, maybe your kids, and your wife's like, "Dan, what is this?" And you're like, "Honey, I want to do something special and unique. I care. I had a story written about you. I get way too much pub. I get way too much attention as Dan Patrick. The story, the cover story should be about you." And then when she reads the quotes, Dan, and by the way, I've heard you talk about this, like on my buddy Kyle Brandt's podcast, when she reads the quotes about, "I just never tell her enough how much I appreciate all the little things she does," she will cry. Like your wife, anybody's wife. Fritzy's probably going to get his wife, a gift card to the Olive Garden again. Fritzy, it's 12 years in a row, an Olive Garden gift card.
What's wrong with that?
Get her a story from myfrontpagestory.com.
Well, Todd has limericks, and he writes his wife a limerick.
Not as good as this.
Well, maybe not.
Trust me.
You know, I was just saying to the guys the other day, when I think of love, I think of Ross Tucker and nothing else. So I would like to get a picture of you, and then I would be able to present that to my wife.
That would be awesome. I'm sure she would love that.
You got any like scantily clad? Your shirt off?
Probably back in college. Does she want to see like 310 pounds?
Yeah,
full
baby.
Force?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. The only pictures I had with my shirt off are like at a keg party in the summer when I was in college. I actually think for 310, I looked all right. I was pretty tan, not too bad. But here's the thing, Dan. I don't know about your wife. A lot of women are not into that. Like when I was in college and I would go to a party, okay, you could tell right away. I mean, I was 315 pounds. Girls either like that or they don't, and there's no in between, and right away. Most girls are not like blow drying their hair, hoping to meet the perfect 315-pound guy that night. Okay,
well,
it doesn't work that way.
If you had been able to get into Notre Dame, then they might have cared. But you went to Princeton. Those women don't care about football at Princeton.
So that is a fact, okay? That it doesn't help you to be a Princeton football player at Princeton, but I would go visit like my buddies at Penn State and they'd be like, "Are you a football player?" And I'd be like, "You're darn right I am." I didn't say it wasn't at Penn State. I just said, "You're darn right." And it worked every time. Every time. If I could do college over again, I would go to one of those. That would be Princeton was amazing. I'm glad I had that experience, but man, I'll go to Texas A&M, get the money and the girls.
Thank you, Ross. Good to talk to you
See
again.
Dan.
Ross Tucker Football Podcast, and you can find him on social media at Ross Tucker NFL.